Hey everybody, it's Leanne here. Welcome back to another video on my channel. Today we're going to be making the last of our trio of videos for bbcraft.com. They're a company who were kind enough to send me some products to try out and sort of review on my blog. They sent me some jewellery sets and some bezels as are pictured on screen, and today we're going to be using the 2 bead sets and the bezels to make something Christmas themed. I'm going to be using these Christmas stickers that I actually bought for my son, and I'm just selecting the little polar bear at the top because I'm going to use his face in the bezel. I'm just going for something really simple here, nothing complicated with my resin. This is a novelty piece of jewellery that I'm going to be making, something fun and quirky that's perfect for my children to wear or to give to their friends, and stocking filler. So the first thing I'm doing is adhering my tape down to something that I can move around. It's just easier when working with resin if it's not adhered to the desk. I'm doubling up my tape just to make it wide enough for my bezel. And I'm adhering my bezel really firmly down. Anyone that's used these bezels know that it's probably the best way to fill it with resin so that you get a nice even seal and you can make your pendants clear doing it this way. So as usual, I'm going to mix up my epoxy resin. It's a 50-50 and I preheat part 1 of my resin before mixing it with my second part of my resin. I'm going to be filling my little pendants with some stars and some snowflake sequins and a little bit of glitter because, like I said, we're going for something really simple with this charm. It's me just mixing my resin and taking off the heat. And I'm back again, adding part B. Now my resin's getting old, so my part B is getting quite yellow, but as you can see it doesn't really affect the colour of it when I'm mixing it up and using it in my crafts. And once that's nice and mixed together so it has no more trails or traces of unmixed resin running through it, I will pour that in my bezel, just a little shallow layer at first, just to make sure nothing is leaking out. Once I'm certain that it is quite well sealed and nothing's going to leak, I'll add a little bit more resin. Now for these pendants, I decided that I wanted to leave them clear in the background and just have little bits of sparkle shining through behind the polar bear's head. So that is what I'm going to do here. I'm going to fill up my bezel, about halfway up, just enough that I can float some sequins and some little stars, and then I'll be applying my sticker to the layer that is still wet, floating on top of all of this. So this is me just picking out my little sequins. These are really cute snowflakes. There are some transparent ones and some white ones, and I use a mixture of both, but I think in the end the ones that you really see are just the white ones. And I'm pushing them down to the base of the bezel so they sink underneath the resin. Everything I'm applying in this layer will be pushed to the bottom so it's submerged in the resin, and then when I apply my sticker, the sticker will be floated on top. Because this is quite a small space and the sticker is going to take up most of the space that's open, I'm not really bothered about the sticker floating around. I can babysit it for a little while. I'm just adding a little sprinkling of glitter here and there by pushing it down into the resin, and then I decide to put the glitter all the way along the edge just to add extra sparkle. I don't know how many times I've said it, I'm a glitter girl and there has to be glitter in everything I do. I'm just adding a little bit extra resin just because I felt that it wasn't deep enough. I wanted everything to be fully submerged. And now I'm sort of looking at where I want my polar bear head to go, and using a spare bezel I'm going to position that bezel over my polar bear. Just getting the bezel out. I'm going to position that bezel over my polar bear till I get him how I want him, and then I'm just going to use a pen to very quickly draw where that would be, and sorry, I can't even speak today, tripping over my own words. I'm going to cut him out. Now these are just foil stickers. These work perfectly well in resin. They don't absorb any resin or curl up or anything like that, so you can float them on top of the resin just as I am doing, and they work perfectly fine. I'm just butting the bottom edge of my sticker up against the bottom of my bezel, checking where I want him to go, and I'm going to leave him to cure. Now while I was waiting on him curing, I did a second one with a Santa head just so that I had a couple, and now with my leftover resin I'm taking a couple of the foam stickers that I bought at the same time as these little craft stickers for my son. I'm going to make a couple of little pin brooches just with the leftover resin. So I'm peeling the back of the foam stickers and sticking them down to the mat, and this stops them from curling up when the resin is curing. And I'm just going to give them a semi-thin layer of resin, enough to make a little dome on top of it, but not so thin that it's going to pull away from the edges. And this is a really quick, easy way to make really sort of cute jewellery with a minimal effort. Foam stickers work absolutely great for this. I've never had any problems turning foam stickers into jewellery. So I'm just giving them both a little layer. Like I said, this was to use up the rest of my resin, but they go with the Christmas theme, so they were a cute addition. And now, because they look a little bit plain, I'm going to add some star sequins and some rhinestones and just embellish them a little bit while the resin is still wet, because I can sink these pieces into the resin or float them on top. These are just little flat back rhinestones that I am placing on this little Christmas tree here. And originally I was going to float these on top, but a couple of them sank off their own accord, so I decided to push them all down onto the base of the sticker. Now I could have done this in layers. I could have done a really thin layer on the stickers and added some embellishments, and then came back with another equally thin layer, and anything I wanted to be on top of the resin I would have put in the second layer. But these were just a quick make just to use up the leftover resin, so I wasn't really particularly bothered about how these turned out. My kids will love them anyway. They're just a little bit sparkle to wear on their school uniform before they break up for Christmas, or to give to their friends, or put as a little stocking filler into somebody that they know that they like. I'm just adding rhinestones to the second tree. Because it was such a glittery tree, I just added some coloured rhinestones to look like Christmas decorations. And both of them have a star sequence on the top just to be a little Christmas star. And on this one here, I'm adding some nail art stars between the spaces that I've left from the rhinestones. That's me just making sure everything's pushed down under the resin, because some of them had sunk. And then I did the same on that second little pin badge. Okay, so this is a few hours later, and this was me checking that everything was nice and cured, peeling my two pendants off the tape. Now as you can see, as I pull them up, the back of them is frosted, and that's purely just because the tape I've used hasn't got any shine, and we'll be rectifying that later on. So these are how they look right now. The back of the Christmas trees are obviously still sticky from being a sticker, and the back of my two pendants are obviously in need of doming. But first we're going to finish our two pendants off. Now our pendants are only half full of resin at this point. I've gave myself a little bit of space just to add a little extra sparkle before I dome them. And because I have still been waiting on my UV resin arriving that I ordered from eBay, I'm using my UV top coat just to add a little sparkle into this layer. Now UV resin is great for using in the layers of your epoxy resin. It cures really fast and holds things in place. So with things like this where you want to add just a little bit glitter onto the top of something, it's a great option. Or if you want to hold something in place by gluing it in place with UV gel before you use a thicker layer of epoxy, it just stops things from floating. So I'm mixing up some white glitter here with some of the clear gel, and I'm adding it to Santa's beard. I'm also adding it to the pom-pom on his hat, and then I'm going to also add it to the base where my polar bear sits against the bezel. As you can see, there's a little gap there, and I just wanted to make it less obvious by filling it in with some of the white glitter. Now that's me bringing over my little UV light to cure that, and I will leave that for a couple of minutes just to cure everything. And once that is done, we are going to top up our bezels with more clear resin and dome them slightly. So just like always, I'm going to use my little measuring spoon, which looks absolutely filthy. I'm just going to take a little part of part A, I'm going to preheat it and then take an equal amount of part B. And then I'm just going to mix them up once I've got them both together here. Now if you don't watch my other videos, I've mentioned this a few times, the reason I mix part A with a the reason I heat part A but not part B is because it helps cool it down while still being warm enough to disperse all bubbles. Because I live in Scotland, it's very cold here and can be quite disastrous with my resin. It can get really thick and gloopy because it's generally so cold. So part A gets heated to coffee temperature, then I mix it with part B and it cools it down a little while dispersing the bubbles. And I'm just going to dome both my Santa and my polar bear. Now it's best to go slow when you're doming something, add a little bit of resin at a time, you're less likely to overflow it. Now I didn't really dome these a heck of a lot, to be honest. I could have given them a better dome, but I just knew that I was going to be making one of them into a keyring, so I kept them pretty flat to the surface. I find that works better if you're going to make something into a keyring. It looks less like a pendant if it's not as domed. So once they're domed, I'm just putting them aside. I'm using my lighter just to disperse any bubbles that may be in the resin that will have floated to the surface. And being able to lean down and look from the side of my desk at how high they're domed, I can add a few drips more of resin just to get it to the level that I want them to be. One more run over with the lighter, which just skims the surface. You're not really applying the heat right onto the resin, you just want the heat to be able to lick the resin enough to burst any bubbles at the surface. Now the two pendants, I'm adding green glitter to the resin that I have left there. Sorry, not pendants, they're brooches, pin brooches. I'm going to mix up some glittery green resin and I'm going to apply it to the entire back of these two stickers. Now this will seal in the adhesive and give me something to glue my bezel onto, but it'll also add stability to the back of your foam stickers. Right now they're still very soft at the back, but doing this turns them into quite tough jewellery, and I absolutely love making jewellery this way. There's actually a video on my playlist of me making some jewellery from foam stickers, and I will add it at the end of this video so that you can see it. So I'm just doing that to both of them, giving them a good little coat. Now the only thing with using stickers is when you try to hold it in place, it obviously sticks to your fingers, so using some tweezers to hold it in place till you get it covered in resin helps a lot. Just using up the last of my resin by dripping it onto these two and giving them a little dome. And I'm going to leave them to cure for a little while before I come back with the brooch pins. So I would say around about an hour later I came back. The best way to tell is to touch the back of your resin with a tool, and as you can see it indents it, but it didn't really sink in or stick. That's the stage you're looking for, where you can indent it with a tool, because what that means is it's able to be reactivated with your lighter but is solid enough to hold up a brooch back. So I lay them on top, push them down slightly, and then take a lighter, and a lighter reenacts the resin around the brooch and will grip onto it without it sinking to the bottom. I'm just going over my two pendants with the lighter again just to be sure I caught any bubbles, and then I leave them to fully cure. So as you can see, I didn't make these massively domed, they're still quite flat, and this is what I call flame polishing. If your resin isn't completely cured and there's any little marks on it, you can still come back with a lighter and polish those marks away just by running the lighter over it, and then leave it to cure for another few hours, which is what I did. Okay, these are ready to have the backs done. Now, rather than give them another coat of epoxy and then wait another night, I decided just to use this UV top coat just for quickness. But if I was going to be giving these as a gift to someone or making more fine jewellery, I would definitely have done this with an epoxy coat rather than UV gel. I just find it gives a much shinier finish. So I'm just applying to both the backs of these pendants just to clear up that fogginess, giving them a cure under the lamp. And when they're done, the two pin brooches are completely done now, and our two pendants here are awaiting to be turned into jewellery. So this is one of the bead kits from BB Craft. I am picking out colours that I think complement the little polar bear there, very Christmassy traditional colours. I'm just giving myself a palette to work from. I mean, there's a really good selection in these beads, and when I've been using these beads, I have found that the quality of them is really good. I had a look at the website and they're listed as Lampwork bead set, even though some of them are Lampwork. Some seem like faux gemstones and some are just Crackle glass. They are really good. I love these beads. They just feel more expensive and good quality than some of the cheaper versions that you can buy in places like AliExpress. And this is the other bead kit. It comes with very small crystals and much smaller sizes of pearl beads, and they're just really complementary together, these two bead sets that I picked. So I'm using some of the beading wire that is silver, and for this one I'm going to turn it into a bracelet with a closure. So I'm taking those little seed bead type things there, which I originally were very delicate seed beads, but when I went back and looked at the website, I found that they really are crimp beads, even though they don't look like they are, and obviously that's what I'm using as my crimp beads now. So I put a crimp bead on the end of that, pulled the lobster closure, sorry, not the lobster closure, the end closure up and over, closed it, and now I'm taking a jump ring to add the lobster closure to that little end piece. I've forgotten how to use vocabulary this week, so bear with me with my very strange language this week. It's like I forgot how to speak. Okay, so once that is secure at one end, I'm just going to take my beads and randomly start threading them on. I had no pattern, no plan. I just picked up ones that I thought looked really cute next to one another, and I jumped between small beads and large beads. I didn't keep it in a precise pattern. There wasn't like big, small, big, small. It was completely random, just going by colours that I thought looked nice together, and I'm stringing them on so that it makes half of the bracelet. Once I get to the halfway point, I put on my little bezel, and then I'm going to string the other half of my bracelet. Now I cut this wire to the length of the bracelet that I wanted to be making, whereas normally I would leave it long and measure as I go so that I have a big long tail end to work from. But for some reason I decided to trim the bracelet wire beforehand, so when I get to near the end I know that that is the length my bracelet should be, and that is when to close it off. So I'm just adding a couple more beads, and when I get to that very small end I'm going to use another one of those ends with a little loop on it, another crimp bead, and I'm going to close that end off to put a jump ring for the closure to clip into. I'm just doing that now, adding my end and my crimp bead, flattening that out, cutting off the little bit of excess wire and then closing that up. And then I'm going to add a jump ring to this side because the lobster clip is on the other side, so it's going to give it something to hook into. Using the little jump ring tool on my thumb that came with the kit. Okay, so this would be a really cute bracelet as it is, just with these beads. Oh, I realised that I hadn't closed it properly and I was just fixing it. This would be cute as it is, just with the beads and the bezel. I mean, it's really cute like this, it's really simple, but I just had to go that one step further, and I want to add some little Christmas elements to this bracelet. I think that Christmas is a time you can go a little bit all out with your novelty jewellery, and a lot of people wear things like this to work or to school because they have to wear uniforms, so they sometimes want to go a little bit mad with the novelty. So I'm adding a little star charm to one side of this bracelet, which looked really cute, and even then I could stop there and it would still be extremely cute. But I also decide that I'm going to add a little snowflake to the other side of the bracelet. But first I'm going to turn my Santa pendant into a charm. So I'm using the same wire and I'm just looping it through and pulling the ends together, and then I'm going to put some beads on those two ends and pull them down. So my pendant's secured at the bottom but my wires are pulled together. I'm just putting something like 3 beads on, and this is to make either a little phone charm or just a little charm that you can put onto a zipper or a pencil case, or anything really, onto your school bag, your handbag. You could clip it onto so many things. I'm just adding one of those ends, a couple of crimp beads just to flatten off and close it up. I used 2 crimp beads this time because I feel like they're so small. I wasn't sure they were doing the job they should be, so I just doubled it up, especially something like a charm that's going to be moved around a lot, especially if it's on like a bag or a coat. Cut off the ends, close that little, I don't know what they're called. If somebody knows the name of these little end things, that would be helpful because I really don't know what they're called. I just know that they are an end closure so that you can add like a little jump ring or a lobster clip to. So I'm adding just a little lobster clip here to turn this into a charm. Now you could turn this into a keyring, you could turn it into a bookmark, you could turn it into a pendant. I'm just giving you some options using the beads from these kits, which as you can see, there are loads of beads left in this kit and I've used quite a few already, and even after doing these 2 things there's still a great multitude of beads. So I'm going to add the star to my phone charm and the snowflakes to both of them just to make them a little bit of a set. And I'm just putting jump rings on them and attaching them to the bottom of the wire, and the snowflake goes up at the jump ring at the top where the lobster clip is. And then for the bracelet, I'm just taking a jump ring, putting it through that snowflake, and then between the beads, putting it around the wire that I expose and closing the jump ring. it's a good strong wire, so this should hold fast. It should be fine, just hooked onto the wire like that. And that is your bracelet and charm in traditional colours, using the pendant bezels as thing other than next bezels. As you can see, they turned out really cute. I like the fact you can see through the pendants. Now the downside to that is when you turn it over though, you can see that the back is a sticker and completely white. That's the downside to them being see-through. And here we have the matching little pin badges. Very Christmassy, very traditional colours. And I think they're really cute, especially when all those beads came from those two kits and you have yourself a little set. But I wasn't done there. I was looking at the beads and thinking, I have so many beads left, and the colours that were standing out to me were the blues and the silvers and the greys. So I decided, using the snowflakes that I've used in these two, those snowflakes there, that maybe we could make something else with this while we have it out. Because the phone charm is cute, the bezel is really cute, the bracelet with the polar bear is really cute, but I'm not so much, I'm just showing you there, you can clip it onto a zip. Yes, that is a onesie I'm wearing. Now, I love these, they're cute, I love novelty things, I love Christmas, but I'm not so much someone that likes heavy things on their bracelets, and these pendants are quite heavy. So I decided I'm going to make you an option without the resin. If you just had the two bead kits, we're going to make something using just bead kits and just some metal charms. I'm just showing off this bracelet a little bit here. Okay, so now to our snowflake bracelet. I'm going for the snowflakes that I used in the last project and a couple of extras, and I found some star charms. I just wanted to make this sort of frosty and snowflakey themed, so I just got out an array of little charms there that I probably won't be using them all. And then I got myself out a palette of colours that I consider to be icy and frosty and would look really cute as additional Christmas novelty jewellery. Now, mostly the big beads come from this one bead set, and the other bead set is much smaller beads, things like little petals and little crystal beads, so I just take a few from that bead set too. Some silvers, some whites, some blues. And I just went back and forth picking out colours that I thought looked really nice together and gave me the sort of cool tone feel, anything that went with the icicles and snow. And I got myself a little extra out in case I needed them extra long. Now I could do this again with the silver beading wire, but I decided to go with this elastic wire instead. It doesn't require any closures, it's much easier to get on and off. So I'm putting a peg on one end of my elastic, and this just stops the beads from coming right off the other end before you're ready to close your bracelet. And because it is quite a sturdy elastic, I'm just threading it straight through without any beading needle, although this kit does come with a beading needle. And much like the last bracelet, I'm being really random with this. I'm just threading them on whatever way I think looks nice together without caring about size or type of bead. I'm just being really random with it and threading them on. I'm not even stopping to apply things like the snowflakes, as we're going to add them once this is completely strung. Now all of these things that I'm making in this video will end up being stocking fillers for people that I know, or go in a tub until I have a mass clearance of everything that I make in a few weeks. It's something I do every few months. If I have a huge stash of things that I have made, craft projects for videos, or just because crafting is my hobby, I will then go on a large eBay declutter and put everything on, starting at 99p, and people get themselves really cute gifts and bargains. I did it a few months ago, and I literally cleared out hundreds of stock from my online business that I had for the last decade. I had so much jewellery and bags and things that I had made just in boxes upon boxes because I closed my store down, and I got rid of everything. Everything was started at 99p and 5-day listings, and it was all gone within a week. And that's what I've decided I'm going to do with all the things that I make in my YouTube videos. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, be sure to click on the links in the description to my blog and check up on me every so often, or subscribe to, there is a mailing list, an emailing list for One Creative Family. You can sign up to that, and that will have any news about anything that I may be getting rid of. Okay, so now I'm just taking my snowflakes and my stars and putting them on some jump rings, and much like I did with the last bracelet, I'm just hooking them around the wire between the beads and closing the jump rings. Now with this one, I'm doing the 4 large snowflakes evenly around the bracelet, and then in the gaps between I'm going to add little stars. To close this bracelet, I just tied the 2 ends together in a double knot, added a little glue, and when that was dry, I'm trimming off the ends. A quick and easy little bracelet in frosty colours. Easy to get on and off, which is always a plus for me, and this is more my kind of bracelet. Something that is evenly weighted all the way around, has no messy closures to be dealing with, is cute and sparkly. I would definitely wear this for Christmas Day. In fact, I might wear this one depending on what colours I'm going to be wearing. And that is today's little Christmas themed jewellery project. So we have 2 bracelets and a charm. And this was the last of my videos for BB Craft for this month, using the products that they sent me. I hope you've enjoyed these videos. Let me know what you think. And I'll be back very soon with a couple of other videos I already have lined up for you. One will be us designing my Christmas cards together that I send out to my neighbours, and one will be trying out my new UV resin when it finally arrives. So, hope you enjoyed this. I will catch you in the next video. Until then, cheery bye. Don't forget to subscribe, and if you want to support me in other ways, you can always go to Amazon and check out my books. The first one in my series is called The Carrero Effect, and it's great reads for somebody that likes contemporary romance. Have a nice evening. Goodbye.